Okay, this is the third and final installment of the Coachmen Truck Camper History series of videos. You have reached the narrated version of it. For 1991, Coachmen decided to do something a little different. They took their existing truck camper with a heated basement, 4 seasons, and upgraded it to an optional Ranger package for the larger truck campers. And they created an entirely new set of campers based upon traditional truck campers like stick and staple construction with fiberglass insulation and aluminum siding, whereas in recent years all the Coachmen truck campers had been laminated fiberglass, block foam insulation, rounded top windows, very expensive construction. And the new version had regular square manual crank-out windows, just like in the 70s. The 1970s style manual crank-out windows. So the Coachman Sport was a cheaper, more economical version. And so they continued their high-end version of truck campers, and they rebadged them the Ranger. The 1991 Ranger is just like the 1990. It's just like it, but it's been given new graphics and rebadged the Ranger. But it's the same truck camper like I've got, with the basement and the heated basement and everything like that. Whereas the Sport is meant to be just one for outdoor sports and stuff like that. And so I guess the Ranger would be a more expensive camper built for long trips and stuff like that. So it's whatever you want. So that's basically it. So my little jingle. That was my little jingle letting me know that I need to tell you about the 1991 Sport. It's been given a whole new set of graphics. A whole new set of graphics, a whole new set of decals, aluminum siding, manual crank-out windows like a lot of your cheaper truck campers, and it's built that way to be an economical solution. Easier to build, easier to repair. Rustic interior on the 1991. You can tell everything is rustic. They went back to the wood grain butcher block style countertops and everything to be like a hunting or fishing lodge. So from now on in this video, for each year, we'll be showing the Ranger, first of all, a set of Ranger pictures, and then we'll automatically go to those pictures of the Sport. Then we'll go move on to the next year, consecutive year, okay? And so, the next consecutive year is 1992 on the Coachmen Ranger series and Sport. Now, we have the same graphics as the 1991, the new graphics, but they've taken the aerodynamic cab over a roof, and you can tell they made it flat to give more headroom in the cab over. That aerodynamics is not that important. Not as important as interior space. We have the split windows in front, as you can see. Those are the Coachmen split windows. So, and there's the next year of Sport. It still has a little bit of an aerodynamic cab over. You can see they kept that aerodynamic. So 1993. Now here's a factory stock photo of the 1993. For 93, we have new graphics. And very little has changed. Mostly the graphics. They were still using the corrugated Phylon. That is the old style Phylon, the original Phylon. The original Phylon was corrugated fiberglass, meant to resemble aluminum, but to give structural strength, so as not to have to use Luon underneath it, because it does not have Luon underneath of that Phylon, like my camper. It has it, but it doesn't have plywood laminated to plywood. It's easier to repair. Okay, there's a stock view of the same year of Sport camper. And as the Sports move on in years, The sports move away from the rustic interior. The rustic paneled interior, we move away from the rustic paneled interior. So each year these campers is slightly different with a slightly different graphic design or whatever like that. And on the sports, where they really don't have front windows because that costs more money to put a front window in it. You have to buy the window and put it in and cut out the whole window. So you can see in 1993 that already started to move away from that rustic interior for the sport. 1994. The graphics are very, very similar to the 1993. If you look at them close, side by side, the Ranger and the Sport, you can tell a slight difference. A new floor plan available in the Sport for 1994, and we have a new color in graphics. Graphic color has changed a little bit. So that longer camper with the side entry is available for 1994. 1995. The introduction in 1995 of the flat pylon siding. That is a flat pylon siding laminated onto Luan board. 1995 is the first year that the flat pylon was available, and the old kind of pylon was phased out. So the graphics, a whole new set of graphics. Interior updated a little bit in here. So the Sport is very similar. Graphics are very similar. They changed, I think, a little bit every year. Barely even a tiny detail. They just change each year slightly. Something different. Even if it's a little detail. That's the same floor plan, the 085 SD. So they went to a more contemporary interior on the Sport camper. Less rustic and more contemporary. It's the same floor plan as that I have in my camper, but when they split between the Sport and the Ranger, the 085 SD went with the Sport instead. We have a book of a brochure for 1996, and on it comes stock photos. A stock photo in 1996. The graphics are slightly different than the 1995, but very, very similar. You'd have to look at those graphics really close to tell the difference in the 2 years. In 1996, we still have the split windows. Just more and more pictures of these. There's a stock photo of the Sport edition. Again, featured is the 085 SD, which is the 8.5 foot camper. All of the Sport campers are available with heaters and air conditioners and bathrooms. So even though they're more basic, they still have the available bathroom and stuff like that, and air conditioning and heating. In 1997. It's 1997. Again, very similar, but the graphics are slightly different. The lines are a solid line. For 1997, they had decided to make this the very last year for the split window. You can see the split window, and it's the very last year for that split front window. 1998 will go to a solid front window. One big front window. So it's the interior of the 1997. Okay, well, there's a nice last cab over in the Ranger, 1997 Ranger. So the inside of these Ranger campers were really nice. Now, there's a picture of a 1997 Sport. 1997 Sport is, it's aerodynamic. The cab over is aerodynamic. And it's not as big and bulky looking because of the aerodynamic cab over. I actually like the aerodynamic cab over because it looks better on a pickup truck, I think. It looks better on a vehicle. I like the big blocky front end through your living space inside, but there's a stock photo of a 1998 Ranger. You can see the look there and what that actually looks like. So, graphics are slightly different than the 97, but very similar. The 1997. The 1998 is. You can see the solid front window. There's another reminder. And so this is just my reminder to tell you all that this is a Sport. 1998 Sport. They've changed the graphics a little bit, creating a little bit of a darker appearance. You can see how sleek that is. A smaller camper on a truck with an aerodynamic front end. It goes right along with the windshield. You see it continues right with the windshield. And the graphics are a little demure on 1999, a little more of a demure style of graphics. Not as bold, a little bit more subtle graphics. So, in the 1990s, it seems like blues and greens dominated in the 90s. Green and light blue and turquoise. Turquoise colors. All of these colors. There's a Sport, 1999 Sport. And the Sport goes all the way up to the end, just like the Ranger, to the end of the Coachmen truck campers. Okay, we're getting close now. 2000. Now, new windows were introduced in the Sport for 2000. But first of all, graphics a little more neutral, a little more demure. Again, on the 2000, a little more modern looking, modern. And on the Sport, the rounded, more expensive type windows became available on the Sport. In 2000, you can see these aerodynamic rounded windows on the Sport, available, giving it a little bit more of an upgraded feel, a little more upgraded feel to the 2000 Sport. So the Sport became a little more upscale as time goes on. The final chapter, drum roll please, here we go, 2001, the very last Coachmen truck campers ever, before Coachmen phases out their truck campers and goes out of the truck camper market for good. Maybe not forever, but the very nice demure graphics on the 2001. I like those graphics better than any other Ranger of the Ranger series truck campers, besides the 1991 and 92. You can see the sleek styling of the 2001 Coachmen Ranger there. Nice. So you can see the mirror with Ranger engraved into it. In the cab over, you can see. You can see the Sport with your rounded aerodynamic style windows and neutral paint scheme on the 2001 Coachmen Sport, the very last edition. I hope you've enjoyed this series about the history of Coachmen truck campers. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the future on another video.